If you are just joining and you do not see the red live button up at the top, we are no longer live and you're watching the replay. I am Misty Leonard. Some of you guys know me. Some of you are new and do not know me. I am the owner and operator of MD Leonard Designs. I am a brand ambassador for Counterculture DIY. And tonight we are going to be showing you the Poxy Sculpt. I am so excited for you guys to get your hands on this. That is what we have created the 3D tumblers with. So excited. So some of you guys were able to catch the Poxy Sculpt on the website. It was put up earlier and a few people got it. You may notice that it's no longer on the site. There is, I believe, limited quantities of it, so it will be popping back up. I'm not for sure if it's going to be after the live or during the live, for whatever is left, so you guys can get your hands on it. But it is a 2-part sculpting epoxy. Gnomes 3D Poxy Sculpt. I was playing around with it earlier because there were a few questions. And so I want to try and answer as many questions as I can while I've got you guys up here. This is a 2-part sculpting epoxy. So you have your part A. There is a noticeable difference in the color. And then your part B. I hope you guys can see. The part B has kind of a creamy off-white tint to it, and the part A is pure white. So you guys can always tell what part is what part. I mixed up a little piece because somebody had asked what's your working time with it. So I mixed up a little piece at 4:50 my time, and it is now 7 o'clock. So we're looking at what, 2 hours and 10 minutes, and it's still pliable. You still have working time with it. So I'm gonna say you probably have about 3 hours or so to mold with it and move it around. Now, I have used it in molds. And I can pull it out of my mold at about 3 hours and still hold the shape, but still have it pliable so that I can mold it to my tumbler. So all you do is you just smash it down in there. Now, like I said, it's a 2-part, so you have an A and a B, and all you do is use gloves because it does get on your fingers. You just take however much of the B you want, and I just roll it in a little tiny ball or a big ball, however much you're using. And I try and grab the same amount of A. And then you just mold them together. Just like so. It does have a little bit of a smell to it. It's not anything terrible. I think it kind of smells like popcorn. So it does have a little bit of a smell but once it's completely dried and cured, you don't smell it anymore. It does have epoxy in it, yes. It is an epoxy mix. So you want to use protective, you want to wear gloves because look, you can see my fingers just after touching it. You do get it on your hands. If you were to do this barehanded and then touch yourself, you would get it all over you. So just wear gloves, be protective. I do normally wear a respirator whenever I mix resin. With this, I haven't. I don't know the exact amount of epoxy that is in it, but it is an epoxy. So you do want to be careful with it. You want to use as much protection as you feel comfortable with. I'm not going to be the respirator Nazi, so you do you and whatever works. So I don't weigh it out, I just measure it. You just want equal parts. So I just did a little ball of each. and then you just kind of mold it together. So equal parts. This does air dry, yes. Okay, so I'm gonna take my gloves off here real quick, and I'm gonna turn you guys down because I don't want to get this all over my phone. So all I do, so I have my 2 jars here, and so I just pulled out B, a small amount of B, and then I'm going to do the same with my A. And I just make them into small balls that are even. So if I feel like I have just a little too much of one, I just pinch it off and drop it right back in my jar. So I just want them even. Okay. Then I just mash them together. This is not on the site right now. It was on the site earlier. There is more that's going to be available, so it will be popping back up soon. Yes, Linz, I have colored it. So you just mix it up until you feel like you have a good mix with it. That's it. It's mixed up. So now we can go into making whatever. And we're going to be doing the gnome on the wine glass. So all I do is, now that I've got my ball mixed together, I just take off a small amount, and then I'm going to take the rest of it and set it aside. I like to start with a smaller amount, and I can always mix more. So if you're worried about not knowing how much to mix, always start small, and then you can just grab some more and mix it up. It's super easy. The working time, this piece that I have here is starting to get stiff, and I mixed this at 4:50 my time, and now it's 7:10. So it's been, what, 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I'm just now starting to get firm that I probably wouldn't want to do a whole lot of sculpting with it. But it is still pliable, and I can still use it. I could still mash it down into a mold, and it's still usable. So I'm going to say you probably have close to 2.5 to 3 hours working time with it. So we are going to start with our nose. And all I do is just take a small amount and roll it into a ball. And then wherever I want the nose, oh, let me backtrack. Okay, so I have glittered my tumbler, base glittered it using epoxy, and then I've gone over with another layer of epoxy. So I have a smooth surface. So now I've got my little nose, and all I do is just gently press it on there. This stuff is pretty soft, so you want to be careful. It does not dry out, but it hardens. So you don't get cracking, you don't get anything like that. So you can take and you just gently take your finger if you get some finger marks and either tap it or kind of rub it. And so all I'm doing is gently pressing this on my tumbler where I want it. You can make your nose as big or as small as you want. Now, if you don't get it completely smooth, you can let it firm up a little bit, and then you can come back and smooth it out with your finger. So somebody had asked about coloring it, and I did this little nose at a little bit before 5 and colored it with sand dispersion color and placed it on there. So I can go back through, and like I said, it's been about 2 hours or so, and smooth it out any way I want to. So this little guy has a bigger nose, which is okay. We love big noses. We love small noses. Lena, it is about 2 hours, I would say, depending on your room temperature. Okay, so now we have our little nose on him, and then we are going to, let's do a beard on this guy instead of the braids. We'll do braids on the other one. So now with the beard, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take what's left and I'm just gonna flatten it out. So just with my fingers, and I haven't colored it. I really like to paint. Yes, I do recommend gloves. So I would not use this without gloves. So I just kind of flattened out what I had left. And remember I said we can start small and work our way up. So if we need more, we're just gonna mix up some more. So I'm gonna lay this on here as his beard. Now I can take and manipulate it and move it however I want to so that he has a nice full beard. I can even take my tool, it's just a little plastic piece, and I can shape it however I want to. So if I want to give him a little bit rounded out there, and I can just take this off and set that aside. We can use that for something else. Now I don't want it all the way up to his nose, so all I'm gonna do is just take and gently push it down away from his nose so it's not right up on top of it. Or do I want it? No, I want it down. Okay. So we're gonna give him his little beard like that. This is just a little plastic. I don't even know what it's called. It's just a little plastic tool that I found. You can use, gosh, you could use a toothpick, which I have used a toothpick in some of mine. You can even use a little silicone brush, just kind of whatever you have laying around. It is very easy to manipulate. So now the really neat part is, because this is so soft, you can take and you can create lines, you can create a little bit more depth in it. Just to give it some texture. Now, we can always go back if you feel like you don't like an area, you want to add a little bit more to it, you can always take and add a little bit more. So say, maybe I want just a little bit more right over here on the side. This stuff is really pliable, so we can just add a little bit more. Just kind of mash it down in there, real gentle. And those lines just blend together. If you want to do long, hairs in his beard, so now all of these, if you can see, if I turn it sideways, all these little pieces that are kind of sticking up will stay there. If you have a really thin piece, it might pop off. But once it's there and where it's at, that's where it's gonna stay. Hope the shelf life, I would say probably 6 months, just like normal epoxy. You do want to make sure that you screw your lids on tight. I have left mine open by mistake, and I left them open for a day, like 24 hours, and I didn't have any dry pieces. I don't recommend doing that, but and then if you want it to kind of blend off on the side, you can do some little whiskers out to the side so it's not perfect. So there's his little beard. It adheres fairly well. You just saw me, I just gently pushed it down and it's on there. Hello, Miss Athena. So you want to, you want to give it a little bit of a press to get it on there. But if you don't like it, you can reposition it. Now, once it dries, it's on there. Okay, now I didn't mix up enough to do the hat because I was just kind of showing you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm just going to shove it in a mold because I need some for a mold anyway. So all I'm doing with my mold is just firmly pressing it down in there. And so I don't have to clean up the edges later. I'm going to take all this excess off. And then I'll set this aside. Is the cup yes, the cup is epoxied first. This was the piece that I did earlier that I mixed up that's kind of starting to get hard, so I'm not going to mix that with my other. But I do want to save that to use as a bow because I need 2 bows later. Because I'm going to do a girl as well. We'll just shove this down in here too. Yeah, you can use fondant molds, cake molds, any of your resin molds for this. And so if you guys want a 3D effect to your tumbler, say you want to do 4-leaf clovers for St. Patrick's Day and you want to add it to your tumbler, all you do is mix this up, put it in your mold, and I will say I leave them in there for about 3 hours, and then I come back and pull them out and they hold their shape, but they're still pliable. This mold is I'm not for sure exactly where that came from, but I've had it for a while. It is not CCDIY's. Okay, so now we're gonna do our hat, and I'm gonna mix a little bit bigger ball for this. Okay, guys, I'm gonna mix up my equal balls. After I leave it in the mold, I pull it out of the mold and I just press it right down onto my tumbler. Or for me, I'm doing the bows, so I'm just gonna press it right down onto her braid. And they were mixed at the same time, so they still have the same softness to them. And so all you do is just gently press them down. The size that I have are the 8-ounce jars. Yes, ice cream scoops work really well with this product because you can mix it up and scoop it. The only thing I have noticed is that when you're doing the scoop, if you have the little scoop that runs the inside, sometimes that gets the little turning mechanism can get clogged up. Do they weigh the same? I think part B is a little bit denser. I think it's a little bit heavier than part A. So you want to make sure they're equal parts. Don't weigh them. Working time, again, is probably around 2 hours. Now, I don't know that you're gonna sit down here and play with it for 2 hours, but just know if you put it on your tumbler and you need to come back and adjust something, you can. Okay, so now we're gonna do the hat. And I've just mixed up another section. I set my little guy off to the side. Always remember, whenever you are doing these, I have nothing. Oh, I have nothing on the back side, so it's fine to lay it flat. But when you start adding your hat, you want to set your cup up, straight up and down. Otherwise, you're going to flatten your hat. Okay, so all I do is just take, and I'm going to roll a section of this out. Okay, so the jars that I have been using are probably, let me see, I probably still have half of them in there, and I have done 3 gnomes and a Hobbit house, Tumbler, and several foam grips, and I still have about half of my jar left. So you really don't need a whole lot with it. It kind of reminds me of the Nice and Thick. You feel like, oh my gosh, this is such a tiny little jar, but I mean, it does last for a little while. Okay, so I've just rolled out a strip. You don't have to worry too much about it being perfect. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that and just drape it right over his nose, like so. And I'm gonna gently kind of pat it down to get it to stick to my cup. And then however you want it to roll around your tumbler. And I just kind of gently pat it down. You want to be a little easy with this, and especially since we're trying to get the brim of his hat, so we want it rolled. And then wherever my 2 pieces meet up, I just kind of pinch that off. And so from this point on, I want to stand my cup up, just because if I lay it on the back side, I'm gonna smash his hat. Now, there might be a little bit of a gap here and there, so you just wanna kind of cinch that together and make sure that it's adhering to your cup, so just gently pressing it down. I apologize if I am missing your guys' comments or questions. I will definitely, if I miss them, please feel free to ask again. I'm trying to look up in between doing this, and catching them. But if I don't, I'll go back at the end too. So you can make it hang down as far as you want. You can make it go straight across, whatever you want. I'm not too worried about if I get extra anywhere around my tumbler. I'm going to show you guys how to clean that off as well. Okay, so now that we have the brim of his hat, we are going to put the rest of his hat on. And all I do, very similar to the beard, I'm just flattening out a section, and I'm going to just start laying it on the cup. Now this one, I do smash it down pretty good. One, so I'm not wasting any and having really thick areas. And 2, it helps spread it out, because now we want his hat flat. I want his hat flat. It was not sanded. No, I just did a fine glitter and epoxied right directly over that. Now, all this excess at the top, I'm just gonna pinch that off, run my finger right across the top of it to get all that excess, because I'm gonna use that as I wrap around for the rest of his hat. And I just pressing it down and smoothing it over to fill out that whole area. And then I'm just real careful when I get down to the brim of his hat to just gently push it right up along the edge, trying not to smash the brim down, because I want that a little bit higher up and rolled. I see some people saying that they were able to snag some of the Poxy Sculpt. So it looks like maybe it's sold out. You guys, there will be more. I think this is kind of like the fast set. It's with every new product, they make so much, and they want you guys, they want us to have it. So they release it, but there will be more, I promise. And then I think somebody said the prime time was up too. Prime time is a base paint. So instead of having to spray paint our tumblers, you can base paint, and 10-15 minutes you're ready to go. You don't have to worry about dry time. You don't have to worry about any of the gassing from the spray paint. You guys, Barry is killing it with these new products. So again, I added that extra piece, and you can see how easy it is to blend it in together, so that you can't tell where I added it, so you don't have to worry about getting the exact amount on right. You can always add more to it. And then I'm short, so all I'm gonna do is set my tumbler up, and I'm gonna make me another ball. You're welcome, Natasha. Go to sleep. I know it's so late there. Okay, so again, I'm not exact on these, pretty dang close, and we're just gonna mix them together. And sometimes you'll get a little piece drop off here and there. Nicole, what do I charge for these cups? I haven't sold one yet. I've made them, and I just want to keep them for myself. So I don't know. I'd have to figure that up. But a lot goes into them. It's not crazy hard to make them. For me, it's a lot of fun. I love working with my hands, so it's kind of a win-win. I get to make something cool for somebody and do something that I really, really love. Now, if you're doing the color, You'd want to be a little bit more careful with your mix and how much you are putting on to make sure that you have enough, just because you would want your color to be the same. I enjoy painting, so I like to paint mine. And with the painting, I have found that with the epoxy base, it's really easy for me to paint and not worry about getting messed up. I can come back in with my X-Acto knife if I overpaint and get any on my cup. I can come back in with my X-Acto knife and scrape off that dried paint, and I'm ready to go, so I don't have to worry about it. So there's his hat, or part of his hat. Now, again with the details. So if you want to make him have a stripe or a textured hat, kind of like this pink one, all you have to do, or all I do, is take a toothpick and just lay it right and kind of mash it down. Oops. We made a little mistake there, but you know what? It's super easy to fix. So you can make stripes throughout his hat. If you want to make polka dots on his hat, you can come through and just take any object that you can think of and create different. You can take, if you don't like the outlines, you can take and do little divots throughout his hat. You guys, the possibilities are, I'm really liking that one. So, you don't like these? We're just gonna take and kind of smash them down to get rid of them. And I'm just gently rubbing across it and kind of pressing as I rub. And look, they're gone. And there you have it. Now those polka dots are gone. Stripes, you want those gone too? Same thing. There's no right or wrong way to do these. And I'm not really particular about getting it completely even or flat. I like the texture look to it. So I don't worry about smoothing it down. But you guys can see as I'm rubbing this, see how smooth that's getting? And all I'm doing is taking the same gloves that I mixed and just gently rubbing over it. So you can get it as smooth as you want, or you can leave it as textured as you want. Okay, so there we made him a polka dot hat. Stop it, that's adorable. Okay, now, and if you notice, if you get a little area where you might have hit it, you feel like you have an indent, you can go back through it and kind of smooth it over. Okay, so now I'm gonna take and make the rest of his hat. And very similar to our hat and our beard, we're gonna take and just flatten out. I'm gonna pull a small piece off for the stocking of his hat. And all I'm gonna do is find where I want to put his hat to come down, and I'm going to just lay my piece on there. And I'm going to gently press it down because I don't want it to completely fold into my other piece and be flat. And then I'm just gonna work it around however I want. I can still spread it out to make it a bigger section. It is a 1-to-1 ratio, yes. And then when I get to the brim of his hat, I just want to be careful not to push down on it. Now I have on my other ones, I actually let this set up for a few hours before I came back through with this section of the hat, just to keep it from falling down and pressing that whole area down. Now, if I were to leave it like this, that's how it's gonna stay. It's not going to fall down, and I kind of like it. So you know what? I'm going to. And then, again, you just smooth it out as much as you want. Okay, so there's the side of his stocking cap. It does not matter. Now I will say, when you epoxy over it, the epoxy will run through there. So it's gonna fill that in, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so we're gonna give him more polka dots. And I just went over 2 polka dots in the same spot, smooth it out, and do them again. Now, like I said, don't worry about any of this. We're gonna clean that up before we let him sit. And there is a little bit of an odor with it. I kind of think it smells like popcorn. So I don't mind it at all. Okay, now we're gonna put the ball on the tip of his stocking cap. So all I did was, again, rolled it up and then gently pressed it on the cup. You can mix colors ahead of time, so you can use dispersion colors and mix up and then apply it. I will say though, if you're mixing the colors ahead of time, you just want to mix up however much you think you need for that section. Mix up your color. If it's not enough, I would take it back off, mix a little bit more, and add your color. That way you've got one solid piece with all the same color on it. I love painting, so I really enjoy doing these blank, and then I can come back in and paint them. Okay, so there's the little ball to his stocking, and I don't know if you guys could see in the picture that I posted, but I put a lot of texture to the ball on the little girl that I posted. And how I did that was, you can paint almost right away. So if we wanted to, we could take this just as it is right now and we could start painting it. I will say if you start to paint it while it is still soft, if you push too hard on it, then you will get, you can still get some movement or some indent. Nicole, I have not tried inks, so I'm not for sure about that. So now to get the texture with it, all I do is I'm taking a toothpick and just kind of dipping it down in there and kind of flicking a little bit at a time just to kind of break up that solid circle. And this gives him that fuzzy ball look to his stocking cap. So we're just going to go all the way around. And I think I missed a question. Somebody asked if what you paint with. If you're doing it while it's still pretty soft, the dispersion colors are okay. You don't have a lot of after, like because they don't have binders in them, so they don't dry completely. So if you do it while it's still a little bit soft, you can actually, you'll notice that it kind of soaks down into it. So if you touch it, you don't get as much transfer. I've been doing acrylics, painting afterwards, and I wait, typically I'll just wait till the next day. Just let it completely dry. Look at that. How freaking cute. How about epoxying the rim? So I just run my epoxy up to the top. The ones that I've done have lids, so I'm not worried about it. You can mix paint in before. That's it, guys. How stinking cute is he? So now all I do is set him up just like so on my table, and I let him dry. I will show you how I do my braids real quick and how I attach them. Oh my gosh, I can't even. Look how stinking cute he is. Like, look at that. Dry time, 4 hours is what I have found that I can come back, and it is hard to the touch. Okay, so we'll do a small braid, and I'll show you guys the scoop as well. Okay, so 2 even. Again, I'm still using the same gloves because I'm tight. So with the whip toppers, I have found that it's too thick to get it to pipe through. I've really struggled with that. I am sure there's a way that it can be done. I just haven't mastered it yet. But you all are amazing, and I know that somebody could. Okay, so your ice cream scoop. You got it in your little scooper. Bam. Peep that. There it is. A perfect little scoop. Now, like I was telling you about the little mechanism, sometimes you'll have to kind of clean it out if you're doing more than one scoop. So you just want to scoop out this excess in your scoop. Otherwise, if you do a second scoop, it's not going to come out. I don't have enough, but you got the idea. Look at that. How precious. It's so easy. You guys, there are so many things that you can make with it. Okay, so the braids, real quick. I take and roll out. I do 6 pieces because she gets 2 braids. 1 on each side. But just like we did the brim of our hat, try and make them as even as possible. Just roll that through a piece of colored epoxy. It is very similar to Play-Doh, texture-wise. Okay, so I'm doing 3 even-ish pieces. And all I do is take and pinch them together at the top, because the top part of the braid is not going to be seen because it's going to go underneath her hat. And then I just start to braid them together. Now, I do longer pieces than what I actually need just because I'm terrible at braiding. So I gotta give it a little bit of a go before I actually get to where it looks like a decent braid. And then when I get to the bottom, I take and do the same thing and just pinch it together, just like so. Now, I will add this to my cup before, I'll just add it to this little girl that we have here going. So I'm gonna pick it up and I just lay it right on my tumbler and I put it where I want it to end. So however long I want her braid to be is where I line it up, and I don't worry. Sorry, I'm way out of the shot. So I don't worry about the top section, okay? So I just kind of, where the braid comes together, I just gently mash that down against my tumbler. And then I'm gonna take the top section here and I just really smash it down and take that excess off. Okay, because remember, her hat is gonna come down here, so you're not gonna see that. So I'm just gonna do that to adhere it to it, and then I'm gonna line up her braid however I want to. I want her to have a swoop in it, come down straight, and just even it out. Now, I'm gonna take, and I want her hair to be all the same length. So I take my toothpick again, and I just kind of trim it off, set that excess aside, and then I come back through, and similar to how we did the lines in the hat, so it will stay however you have it. Once it dries, that's how it's gonna be, okay? So there's your braid, and then I'm gonna take one of these bows out of my mold. Maybe, hang on, I don't want it to smash my braid. Okay, so this is the bow that I mixed up at 450. So all I do is just gently push it out. And then I'm gonna take and just place it right on my braid. And I just gently tap it down in the middle and then wrap it around just like so. It's still pliable. And then if you need to adjust any areas, sometimes because it is a little bit thinner, I've had them crack in the middle on my bows. So you can just come through and flatten that back out. Or if you don't feel like you've got it as smooth as you want, you just come through and gently smooth that over. Because this has been nearly 3 hours, it's not smoothing quite as well as those other ones I showed you, but you can still get it to smooth out. That's it. And then when we place the hat over the rim, which I have enough, but I'll just show you guys that real quick and how I do. I just chop the top of the braid off. This is a part B, a part A and part B Poxy Sculpt. So it is an epoxy that is a clay form. Okay, so we're gonna run our line out again, and then I'll just show you guys this real quick. So I just kind of drape it around however I want it. And then I'm gonna take the top of that braid and scoop it off and not put it down in the cup. And then I just take the brim and just run it right alongside there. So I would do the same thing with the other side. So hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully you guys were able to grab some of the Poxy Sculpt. If you didn't get some this time, there will be more, I promise. I promise, I promise, I promise. Counterculture does nothing but want to please customers. So you guys, they are working very, very hard to get more product out for you guys on the website and in your hands. So never fear, there will be more. So recap, adorable gnomes with Poxy Sculpt. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you all for having me. Thank you, Counterculture. Thank you, Mindy, Barry, Morgan, everybody for having me. Have a good evening. Bye, guys.